Hello and welcome to our VectorVest strategy presentation titled the VectorVest 7 Homepage. My name is Brian D'Amico, Manager of Educational Services here at VectorVest, and it's my pleasure to present the strategy to you. Our founder, Dr. Bart DiLiddo, has written about a very simple approach to investing which uses the VectorVest 7 homepage. In fact, you may find that the homepage gives you all the information that you need. Let's get right into VectorVest and take a look. The VectorVest 7 homepage is designed to read like the front page of a newspaper, where market analysis is the headline story. The first thing that Dr. DiLiddo reads is the quick list over here on the left-hand side, because it details all of the key market indexes along with the VectorVest composite. For example, here we can see that all of the major indices were down today. Once Dr. DiLiddo takes a look at that, he also takes advantage of the ability to customize the homepage to see if there was anything in the news which may have affected the market. To do that, simply come up to the Homepage tab and click on this little wrench up at the top. When you click on the wrench, you can see all of the gadgets that are available to you which you can add to the homepage. And if you look right here, you can see that you can add a gadget for the news. So when you click on it, you can see it appears down here on the left. Once you do add a gadget, you can move it to wherever you want on the home page simply by clicking on the header of that gadget and dragging it around the home page. So let's say I want to put it here in the top right hand corner. I can also come over here to this gadget and change the size of it. When I click on the wrench, you can see there's multiple things up at the top. I'm going to change it from a medium down to a small size. And there's several types of stories that you can read. Here it's going to give us the market news. But if I want to just read the top stories, I can click on that, and those will appear at the top. I'll click on the wrench to get rid of that header. So here we can see some of the top stories, and if I expand this to the left just a little bit to see the titles of some of these, the first story here, Wall Street drops, ends January with sharp losses, and I'll scroll down just a little bit more, and you can see one here, Stock Slammed, Official Correction Looms. So you can read any one of these articles simply by clicking on the link, and it will bring you to the Yahoo Finance article. I'm just going to drag this back over. Now, one of the great things about VectorVest is that it gives you an unbiased analysis of the market's direction. To see how the market's movement affected our market timing signals, simply look right here in the center of the screen at our market timing gauge. Here in the gauge, you can see that it's now pointing 2 ticks into the red. And it states that the color guard is somewhat bearish. It then says that VectorVest does not advocate buying any stocks at this time. Now you might look at this and see, wow, with the market dropping so much today, why doesn't this gauge tell me to sell my stocks? Well, that's actually a common mistake. VectorVest advocates selling low VST, sell-rated stocks when the market is falling. But the color guard does not have the information that it needs to tell you when to sell your stocks. You have to make that decision based upon your own exit criteria and personal circumstances. Now, if we move down to the second row of gadgets on this home page, Dr. DiLiddo has also added a gadget here as well. It's called Advanced Decline. To do that, I'm just going to come up to the wrench once again. And I'm going to have to scroll over just a little bit, and you can see there's a choice here for advances and declines. So I'm going to click on that, and here it's added right there. And I'm just going to slide it down right over here to the right-hand side and let it go. This gadget lets you see on a daily basis how many stocks are moving higher compared to yesterday and how many stocks are moving lower. And here we can see that today there were almost twice as many declines as advances. And if we look right here into the center, we've got the color guard. This market timing gauge at the top is actually a composite of the indicators shown here in the color guard. This color guard has indicators which show the direction of the market, the short-term trend of the market, and the overall health of the market. In other words, the strength or the weakness of the market. And you can see with just a very quick glance in this color guard, you know it's not a good time to be buying stocks. You've got overall yellows and reds, and you add that to the other information you have with the market being down today, the gauge telling you not to buy stocks, more stocks declining today, you know it is not a good time to be buying stocks. Well, what if the signals did tell you it was okay to buy? Or what if you wanted to prepare a shopping list for when the market does turn back around? And believe me, the market will eventually stop falling and move back up. And this homepage will tell you exactly when it is safe to buy stocks again. So if you were looking to buy stocks or create a shopping list, the homepage gives you information to easily get your stocks. To get that information, it's actually on the lower left-hand corner. So I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom left-hand corner. And this is where we have a gadget called Top VST Stocks. And I'm actually going to remove one of these gadgets here. And let's move this one down here to the bottom, because I wanted to have these three right next to each other, right in a row. I'm going to show you the method Dr. DiLiddo uses to cherry pick his stocks. He calls this method the Midas Touch. So to cherry pick some candidates from this top list, simply come down to this first one, right-click on it, and choose View Stock Graph. I'm just going to maximize this graph here. And instead of looking at the default layout, I'm going to change the layout to this Midas Touch. And then shrink this layout. And what we need to do is change the time period so that we're looking at 3 months. This method is so simple. All you have to do is make sure that these 3 lines are hitting new 3-month highs. Here on this graph, we're looking at the 10-day moving average of the stop price, the 65-day moving average of stop, and a 40-day moving average of RT. And we also want to make sure that this relative timing moving average is above 1. And trust me, you're going to get that if you're looking at top VST stocks. So if all 3 are hitting new highs, you've got a candidate. Here we can see that Jazz has met all the criteria. All 3 are hitting new highs. So when the home page tells you that it's okay to buy stocks again, you've now identified a stock you may want to buy. Let's look at a couple of more, and you can see how quickly you're able to do this. Let's just close this graph and just come to the next one. Right-click, view the stock graph, and just get into a little pattern here of changing it to 3 months. And if you ever have any trouble seeing if it's hitting a new high, you can simply change this to either a crosshair cursor or even a horizontal cursor. So if I move this right over the point here, you can see there, new high, new high, new high. You've got another candidate. Let's close this one. And you can see how quickly you can go through 5 stocks, change to 3 months. Let's look at our horizontal cursor again. Boom, boom, boom. 3 candidates all in a row. Let's do GSB. Maximize this. Change to 3 months. This is a no-brainer. All 3 are hitting new highs. And let's just do the last one in the list. BABY. And let's change to 3 months. Oh, this one's pretty close, right? So let's get that horizontal cursor out. Oh, look at that. The moving average of RT is not hitting a new high. It's actually coming off that peak. Even though it's starting to curl back up, it is not hitting a new high, so it wouldn't be a candidate. Maybe you'd write it down and keep an eye on it for later. All right, so let's close this graph. To the right of the top VST stocks gadget, there's 2 other gadgets. There's the top RT industries and the top RT sectors. These are the industries and the sectors that are in the strongest uptrends right now. A great method of buying stocks is to pick the best stocks in the best industries or the best sectors. And you could do that easily with the home page. All you have to do is come to the gadget of the top RT industries, move to the top industry, right-click on it, and click on View Stocks in Industry Group. And here you can see that this industry is made up of 4 stocks. 2 of them have a buy, 2 have a hold. Now let's first check to make sure that they have adequate volume. So I'm going to scroll over, and we can see 3 of them do have adequate volume. The 4th one here is a little bit light, so let's consider the top 3. Let's do a little more analysis on those. All you have to do is graph them and use the same Midas Touch cherry picking technique we did with the top VST stocks. So let's do this. Let's click on the first one, hold Shift, click on the 3rd one, and I'm going to come over here. Actually, I could just right-click and go to View Stock Graph and maximize it. And remember, what we need to do is just change it to 3 months. We've got our Midas Touch layout here. Now, let's put on our horizontal cursor. That's good. That's good. But relative timing is not. So let's move to the next one. Here you can see no, No. So moving on. And this one's clearly a no. So here we can see that none of them met the cherry picking criteria, so I wouldn't buy them even if the market was bullish. So let's try the next industry. So I'll just close this, close that, we'll just come to the next industry, right click on that and view the stocks in that industry group. So here we're looking at the ETFs, sector biotech. Once again, let's just check for adequate volume, scroll over to the right, and we're looking good there. So let's highlight them all and graph them. Remember, change to 3 months. All right, so let's take a look. Higher, higher, highest point, good. Move to the next one. Highest point, highest point, highest point, we're good. Highest point, highest point. This one doesn't look like it's at its highest point, so that one would be a no-go. So you see how quickly you can just scan through graphs using this method. So let's close this graph and close this list. And you could do the same thing with the top RT sectors. Now, Dr. DiLiddo made another great discovery. He discovered that the Midas Touch not only gives him a great way to know when to buy a stock, but it also gives a great way to know when to sell one. Let me show you an example. I've pulled up a graph of Q-Core, and this is what the Midas Touch layout would have looked like back on May 29th, 2013. Obviously, at this point, it would not have been a buy candidate, right? Because not only is RT not hitting a new 3-month high, neither is the moving average of stop. So let's do this. Let's move this forward until we see that it does become a buy candidate. So I'm just going to move the graph forward. And let's just stop right there. We're in about mid-June, and any time in here, look, we're hitting new highs with all three. So at this point, it'd be on our radar saying, okay, now's a good time to enter. So let's just mark this point. I'm just going to draw a vertical line somewhere right in here just to mark our space. So now let's say you bought it at this point. One of the toughest things for investors to do is to know when to sell a position. Dr. DiLiddo discovered that the key lies in the moving average of relative timing down here at the bottom. When it has peaked and has begun to move lower, what he'll do at that point is add price to the graph. And if price is actually below a recent high and trending lower, he knows it's time to protect or take profits. So let's get practice doing this. So let's just keep moving this forward, and let's keep our eye on this relative timing for when it starts to peak and move lower. So here we go. We're moving it forward. You can see it's moving higher, higher, higher. All right, higher still. Keep chugging away, moving higher. There we go. It's kind of leveled off. Do you see what's happening there? It's kind of pulling back off of that high, right? So to see that a little bit more clearly, let's put on our horizontal cursor. Do you see that? How relative timing has peaked and is now starting to move lower? At that point, if Dr. DiLiddo saw that, he would add price to the graph. Now, adding price to the graph, at this point, you can see that it is below a recent high, and it started to trend lower. So right around here, you could say, this is where I'm going to either take profits or protect my profits. So let's just draw a horizontal line, and you might say if it drops below that point right there, I'm going to exit that position because RT, or the moving average of RT, is showing that it's losing momentum. Using this technique, let's just move it forward and see what would happen. So I'm just going to move forward day by day. And you can see that type of a technique would have helped you protect profits. Even though it did rebound back up to around the $66 point, this might not look like much right now. But this was a drop from 66 down to 53. That's like a 19% drop that this would have protected you from. So as you can see, this home page that we looked at tonight is full of valuable information to make you a better investor. To steal a famous line from one of my favorite movies, not using this homepage would be simply inconceivable. I hope you enjoyed tonight's strategy, and we look forward to having you back next week at the VectorVest University. Good night, everyone.